Hello, welcome to Devon Monk's Works and Worlds, and this is Monday Monk 51. I am 1 week away from having made this a once a week event for a year. Like I said, if you come here pretty often, you may have heard that I plan to do some giveaways in February here on the channel, on the YouTube channel. For a thank you for all of you for coming by and checking in on me every week. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I have certainly enjoyed sharing a little behind the scenes with you, and yeah, I hope you continue to come back. I will be adding different things to this channel. I want to try some different things, and I hope you'll let me know what sort of things you want me to do here. Thank you for coming here. I really appreciate you being here today. I'm going to just jump into the normal things that we update every week. So let's see, how is writing going? It is going really well. I am still working on the Seamus Flynn story. I don't have a name for it. It'll be 2 words because all of the titles in that series are kind of 2 active words. Like the first one is Hellbent, the second one is Stone Cold, and the third one is Backlash. And then I will do another one that kind of fits that theme. Anyways, writing that is going well. It's I'm just at the exciting part where everything is coming to a head here, and now we gotta decide how we're gonna solve this problem. And it's been fun because I haven't gotten to write Stone the Gargoyle or Xavier Jones or Allie Beckstrom or these people for a long time, and I've got to say it's been enough years that I was like. I know I wrote them and I like them, and they're still like, I know them in my head and in my heart and stuff, but like picking them up and writing them again, it's kind of like if you haven't ever, like if you are used to roller skate, but then you put on the roller skates again, it's like, okay, I know how to do this. It's just going to take me a minute to kind of get in the groove. And it felt that way picking up these characters again. But that made it kind of fun because I'm like, I remember these people. They're super cool to play with. So yeah, I've been enjoying writing the next installment of the really kind of the Allie Beckstrom world, but also of the Seamus Flynn world. It is told through Shame's point of view because it is a continuation of the Broken Magic series, which is the Shame and Tarek books. Okay, so yeah, that's going well, thank you. And then knitting is also going well, although I did have to rip out, I'm making a toy and I had to rip the head out. It's just like, I had it done and there's a head, and then it didn't look right to me. I didn't like it because I'm using 2 colors, and it just, how I decided to knit it, I didn't like how it turned out, so I just like ripped its head off, unstuffed it. There's stuffing flying everywhere. Balls of yarn. It's kind of a mess. It's a gory, yarny scene. But I pulled it out, and I've caught all of the stitches that I have to catch to start that part again. And then I think I'll probably get that done tonight. I'll get the head on it, and then all the rest of the pieces that go into the toy, and then I should have that done. And it will be given away probably on the 31st, which is the last day of January. I think that's a Tuesday, in which case I will show the toy here on Monday before it is given away in the newsletter. But as you can see back here, this is the toy that I knit for the December giveaway, and this toy hasn't been claimed yet. Okay, so knitting is going well. After I get done with this toy, I will be moving on to a couple of toys that I hope to give away in February. We started the RV remodel. This project that we picked up, which was a water damage project, so it's something that had to happen for the RV. We've kind of torn the RV apart. It's a little destroyed at the moment. So it's hard to explain, but if you think of a Class C RV, which is the kind that has the bed over the cab of the car, you know, the cab of the truck or whatever, it has that bed up there. There are 2. The bed is like a sliding board that goes back, and there are these 2 walls on the inside of the RV that support that bed. And each of these walls goes out to the outside to make the square part of the RV that goes back. That sounds really complicated, but basically what we had was one of the support walls for the bed that goes above the cab. That wall was water damaged from before we bought the RV. So we wanted to take that wall out without damaging the, I think it's called Filion, whatever. I think I called it philo once, and I know it's not dough, but it's like Philon, I think it's called, or Philion, and it's like the fiberglass that is the outside of the entire RV. Like that's the outside walls, that's the roof, and it's this side wall has Philon, whatever it's called, on the outside of it, and the outside of it is kind of on the inside of the rig. And so it's a piece that is both outside the RV and inside the RV. And so what we were hoping to do is keep it in one piece and peel off the exterior so that we could reuse it, so that it didn't look like we were patching. But we had to take it out of there, and the wood was so damaged, water damaged, it was just disintegrating. We wanted to use it as a pattern, so we wanted to keep as much of it in the shape as we could. And we wanted to pull that fiberglass, that Philion, off of it to reuse. We couldn't pull it off to reuse. It cracked. It was the parts that were glued on well to whatever was left of the wood stuck really well. So we're having to kind of order in exterior siding for an RV that we will cut out and replace the piece that basically we couldn't reuse. So wow, it's kind of a big project. Like we've done big house remodels and stuff, and this is like one little wall, but it's a complicated little wall. Though it isn't something that you can't do. Like it didn't feel like it was above our skill level. We're just trying to be smart about it. Like at one point we're like, let's just swing a sledgehammer at it a couple times. Sledgehammering, what damage could it do to an already damaged wall? And I think we did good. Us ratties did good, and we're on the path to the rebuild. We have parts ordered in. What's funny is while we were in the middle of tearing that apart, we're like, yeah, let's tear this other thing apart. So I'll show you. There's another part of the rig that we're like, someday we're going to change that. Well, we decided we were there, and why not? So we've pulled that apart too, and now we're in the kind of noodling out the rebuild process of that too, because apparently we can't do one thing at a time. We're like, we're here, which is fantastic. I'm very excited about it. Actually, it'll be a fun change. So yeah, we did RV stuff this weekend, RV remodel, and it's destroyed. Like there's a tarp over our poor little RV, and it's all taped up with duct tape to hold it against the weather. It's like, oh, we ruined it. We didn't ruin it. It's just we're mid repair, and we'll get her fixed up. So I will share that when I have that done. Okay, that's it. That's that part. And now I think I have like 2 minutes, and I will go ahead and grab two. I just want to do a minute on each. How fast can I do the tabs? How fast can we do the tabs? Okay, this one is I had to think about who it is. Avnus. Pretty sure that is from Ordinary Oregon, and he is the King of Hell's right-hand man, also his brother, and Bathin's uncle. He's a demon. He's a demon of the underworld of hell, basically. And Avnus shows up in Ordinary for his own reasons. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it. And he sort of has a thing for the queen, or the ex-queen of hell, which is Ixelle, which I talked about her a little while ago, that she likes to take the pink unicorn shape because she's like that. And she's hiding out in Ordinary, basically. And he shows up in Ordinary. And I don't want to give it away, but Avnus is fun because he showed up as at the very end, I think, of Hell's Spells. I want to say he showed up at the very end of book 5 or something. And I'm like, that's an interesting cameo. And then he turned out to be a character that, showed up in Ordinary and became a relatively large part of the plot. So that was fun. I like him. He's fun. I like the shape that he decides to take in Ordinary. All the demons seems like if they can take any shape they want. I don't know why my demons take the shape of farm animals. Farm animal demons, people. Okay, here's the next one we're going to pick. Oh, geez. Well, I think I've done her before. If I haven't, maybe I can do 3 real quick. Delaney. Delaney Reed is a main character of the Ordinary Oregon books. She is the eldest of 3 daughters, and it is her job to look after all of the gods who come to vacation in Ordinary, who put down their power to vacation there, and all of the monsters and creatures who live there, and all of the humans, too. And she is a bridge, is what her power is called. And she is the one who she's the yes-no for whether or not a god can put down their power and come into Ordinary. And it's in her family line. They were chosen by the gods to do this, over the years. And in the first book, her father has passed, and so she has taken on that responsibility. And one of the things that's interesting is so she can say no. She could stop a god from coming into ordinary if she wants. She's got that. She can kick a god out. She could say, pick up your power and go. She's kind of the main in and out for any of the gods. One of the things that's interesting is in the first book, one of the other parts of her ability is if a god is killed in ordinary, because when they're in ordinary, they're as close to mortal as they ever will be. And if they get shot or something and get killed, their god power will need to be passed on to someone else, some other vessel, some other person to hold that god power. But while that person or vessel is being decided upon, Delaney is the one who holds that god power. And it's kind of an interesting rule in there. I won't say whether it happens or not, but I always thought, wow, that's a lot of responsibility, Delaney Reed. She handles it well. Okay, I'll do one more and we'll call it good. Oh my goodness, we already did this. This is Excel. I got to tell you something. I dropped this on the floor and all of this went spilling onto the floor. And so I scooped it up and put it back in here. And I thought, I hope I didn't put in some of the ones that I've already used before. I did. So let's pick another one. Oh, geez. This is kind of a longer subject. Knitting. There, knitting. I suppose I put this in here because remember I filled this box like a year ago with just random things to talk a little bit about knitting and how I got to knitting. I learned how to knit from one of my aunties, I think. It wasn't my grandmother. She taught me how to crochet, which I don't do very well. But I learned how to knit very young, and the very first thing I made was a giant scarf, and it was, miles long out of scrap random yarn that did not go together. It's terrible color combinations, and it was some parts were wide and some parts were narrow, and I had no idea what tension was, and that was that. I just went all out and knit a super long scarf. Then I didn't do a lot more knitting. I did a little crocheting until 2007. My first novel had sold. It's Magic to the Bone. Can you see me pause on that? My goodness. Okay, Magic to the Bone is the first Allie Beckstrom book. Is urban fantasy when urban fantasy was first becoming a thing in novels. Like it had sort of been out there before, like Robin McKinley's Sunshine and some of those, but it was really kind of exploding as its own genre. And I sold the Allie Beckstrom books. If you haven't tried them. They're fun. I have a French version out there now with gorgeous covers. So if you want to read it in French or in English, it's out there in English too. So anyway, after I got through all of the deadlines of getting that book written, which there's a whole nother story there. It had to be written very quickly. I was on just banana deadlines. But after it was written and revised and proofread and everything, I was like, I just did this thing. And then I ran across a picture of Alan Dart's gnome. I think it's called Winter Gnome or something. This is years ago, so not his newer ones. I'll try to put a link to it down below. And I'm like, that's a knit toy? You can knit toys like that? It blew my mind. And I'm like, I want to do that. And so it was snowing. I've told this story before. It was snowing here in town. I think it was December. And I thought for sure I could go find that knit pattern in town because I was sure that my local whatever store would have, every pattern I wanted in it and that it would have all the needles and yarn that I needed. And that's when I realized you have to buy double pointed needles, which I'd never heard of before. You have to buy a certain weight of yarn, like how heavy the yarn is makes a difference for the size of the needle and the size of the toy. Then you need stuffing and you'd need like stitch markers, and you would need the pattern. So I found out that the pattern was in a magazine that I couldn't get because it was a UK magazine, but luckily you were able to order it online. And so I ordered the insert from the magazine, the actual magazine itself. I can't remember which knitting magazine. They mailed me his knitting pattern. And so once I got that, I just started, I stayed up late at night knitting this. I would turn on the TV. We had this tiny TV late at night, try to keep it low so I wasn't waking up the kids. And I knit this little gnome and I knit it poorly. I'll tell you now. I look at it and I'm like, oh, I so didn't know what I was doing. It's so good. But I knit this little gnome and I loved it. I was like just manically knitting it. And that began my love of toys, because I realized that was the most fun I'd ever had knitting. Like, it was more fun than a scarf. I get bored knitting scarves. It was more fun than trying like a shawl. I get bored knitting shawls. I like little compact complicated things, and toys are often that. So yeah, knitting, I really picked it up again in the 2000s. And yeah, so I am a knitter, and I don't feel like I'm an expert, but I don't think there's a pattern that I can't tackle. It's basically, if you're new to knitting, and I don't know if anybody here is, but all you have to learn, and it sounds like it's a lot, but it isn't, is what the terms on the pattern mean. Like when they say KTBL, that's knit through the back loop. And if you know what knit through the back loop means, which means instead of knitting through the front of the yarn like you would normally knit, you knit through the back leg of the yarn, then you're fine. Because all knitting is knitting and purling, and it's one version of knitting or purling. You're either doing it through the front or the back, or two of them together, or wrapping it around. It's pretty simple, but what I recommend for knitters is learn the basic pattern terms, because then you can read the patterns, which are sort of it's like a recipe. But I had a friend who's a computer programmer, and he's like, this is like a programming language. And I'm like, well, it's a lot simpler than that, honestly. But yeah, I mean, it's a little recipe, and you just have to know the basic how to read a pattern. And once you know how to read a pattern, there's nothing you can't knit. You can knit everything. So yeah, I love knitting. It came into my life early and then came back into my life later. It's tied into my writing because of that. That gnome, that joy of that gnome, at the same time that I was so excited that my first book was actually going to be published, is like indelibly imprinted upon me. So I just find joy in it, and I find joy in sharing it. And so I hope you enjoy me sharing knitting, even though, like, I'm a writer, I should probably only talk about writing, but I want to share the joy of knitting too, because for me they're linked. The writing and the knitting are a part of this journey that I'm on, of creativity, of giving, and of creating and giving. So yeah, thank you for coming by today. I know I went too long. Probably this is the longest I've ever gone. Maybe I'll edit it out. But until next time, I hope you stay well. Have a great week. And remember, I will be posting some videos of the RV repair once we get the RV repaired. Until next time, bye for now.